Welcome back to another spooky episode of the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we take the movies we love, break them apart to find out what gives them their magic, sex magic, blood sugar sex magic. I am your host, Josh Griffey, joined as always by my friend, co-host, and notorious philanderer,
Alex Dandino. Yep.
All right. Before we continue our descent into the horror genre, a little bit of business, guys. It is official. We're on Patreon. That's right. Your friends here at the Film Alchemist podcast are on Patreon. That's patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. The absolute best way to support the show. The best way to make the show exactly what you want it to be. And here's the trick, guys. If you want a movie every single day this month, we've done the work. There is a movie available to you every day. But some of them are Patreon exclusives, right? Selected and voted on by our patrons and our community over there. That's some of the perks, right? You get some extra movies. You get a commentary, Q&As, miniseries, all kinds of fun shit we're doing over there. So again, if you can, we would appreciate the support at patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. We have so many awesome friends over there. Thank you, guys. For those of you who are about to join us, thank you as well. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Film Alchemist. See these domes while you listen to our talks. Email the show, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. Find us on all the socials you're on. We're easy to get a hold of. We love to hear from you guys, especially this month, man. If you guys could be retweeting everything we put out about the October Marathon, it would mean the world to us. So thank you for that. Something also easy you can do that takes but a second. Leave 5-star ratings and reviews everywhere you find the show. It really does help us defeat the algorithmic dirtbag husbands to be just taking advantage of us, not letting us live our best lives. So help us out. Right? You guys know the deal. 31 days, 31 pods. We've begun our descent into the horror abyss with Hellraiser, right? We were like, you know what we want to start our October? Some fleesh. We want some fucking fleesh. So that's where we started, was Hellraiser. So today we have hit Hellraiser number 6. I hope you've enjoyed the others, including Hellraiser Inferno with our friend Josh Lobo, writer-director Josh Lobo. That was a great one. Today we're on Hellraiser : Hellseeker. Or as I would rename the movie, Hellraiser Doing Too Damn Much. So this is the part of the franchise where we're going to start seeing some warts that seem to be built into the cake now reemerge. I will say this. If I'm rating the Doug Bradley run of movies, right? That's 1 through 8. Hellworld is 8, I think, right? If I'm rating my Hellraiser franchise with Doug Bradley, I think Hellseeker is the very fucking moss-covered dirty bottom of the fucking lake. This, to me, is the worst Hellraiser that Doug Bradley was Pinhead in, right? It's a movie that, while it brings back Ashley Lawrence, which we were all probably really excited about, kicks her ass out of the movie within about 2 minutes.
Pretty much immediately.
And then she's in flashbacks. And then this is essentially a whole movie that exists for a really fucking cool ending. I don't know that the ending necessarily massages away all the other feelings you'll have during this film. So, Alex, why don't you start us off with your opening thoughts on Hellseeker?
I think I've said this before. I have never sought out the Hellraiser sequels.
That's smart.
And
they only come for you if you seek them out.
Yeah. And while Inferno was entertaining, yeah, Hellseeker's a bit of a downgrade. I'm not going to lie.
Do you think this is your least favorite of the Doug Bradley movies?
No, but
really,
I don't know. It's hard to say.
This one has an exceptionally good ending.
The next two are real, like, what is this?
Yeah. Well, we hit this phase, right, where it's like, we're at the phase now where essentially, and a lot of people hate Inferno. I actually really enjoy Inferno, right?
I think it's cool.
But if you take Inferno through Hellworld, right, the question you're constantly left asking yourself is, what did this movie do really well? Because the things that none of them do well, right? none of them really capture what was good and scary about Hellraiser in the first place, right? This ultimate pursuit of pleasures and the kind of gray area where that can lead us to whatever, right? There's not a lot of examining of the mythology. There's not a lot of adding to mythology. This is the phase where it feels like, I mean, Inferno was clearly a spec script where they just cram Pinhead at the end.
Right.
And that's kind of the Inferno through Hell World vibe. What I do appreciate about this one did not feel like a spec that had Pinhead foisted in. This felt like it was trying to get back to the world of Hellraiser.
Yeah, this movie definitely feels like a Hellraiser movie. Like it's geared towards like the story of like, you know, Hellraiser, like part of the mythos in general. I agree. There's just some stuff in here that does not quite, like a lot of it doesn't work for me. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, again, like this is the thing I like about October, because I usually like most of the first movies from a lot of these, from a lot of the runs we've done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, that's why they have runs. Like series in general are not interesting to me a lot of the time with Hellraiser or with horror movies, because like I'm not seeing a lot of like reasons to watch for past like the first two, basically. Like there are exceptions to that rule, but like Hellraiser particularly, after watching Hellraiser 2, going any further, there's been like cool surprises, like Inferno was fun, that kind of stuff, but like there's been nothing that I'm like, oh shit, I am locked in this entire movie. Like that's the problem, is like these Hellraiser movies have the gravitas that they should be like, you should be locked in. And it is that situation where you're like doing your thing, and then at the same time my hand's like drifting over to looking at my phone. My head's like drifting over looking at my phone. Like that's I think the problem. And you know, look, I'm not saying that that's not just because I'm at home with a kid and so like I'm just like drifting over and everything, but like the issue is that this should be grabbing your attention. Like this is a weird, fascinating part of the genre to me. And it's like there's a lot more to it. Like you're saying, the mythos is really cool actually. This is like part of it, but there's also this sort of like Hellseeker this is the problem. The saddle up and ride thing of doing a movie like Hellseeker is like, all right, well, it has Hellraiser in the title, so I'm assuming you guys know what's going to happen. You're like, yeah, but like that doesn't mean you have to just like do it. Like make it at least somewhat cool. Like there's like bringing Kirsty Cotton back is like, I don't know,
awesome.
That part's cool.
Should have been great,
but yeah.
Well, okay, so let's start here. So one of the things that starts to happen a lot in this run of the Hellraiser franchise, right? And again, I like doing the whole franchises because some of these Hellseeker on its own, if we were not doing this as part of a bigger talk, it would be hard to fucking, you know, fluff yourself into being like, let's fucking talk Hellseeker. Totally. But in the context, I think it is interesting and worthwhile. Here are some of the problems that I think begin to besiege Hellraiser at this point. The biggest problem with Hellseeker, right? The absolute biggest problem. We spend so much fucking time wasted, right? Like there's very little Pinhead or Cenobite in this movie to begin with.
Right.
If you start your movie with, there's an accident, you know, blah, blah, blah. Oh, he's in a hospital. People have already seen him again. Now they're operating on his brain. He's seeing visions. Right off the bat, you're like, oh, this is a none of it's going to be real kind of movie.
Yeah.
And that fucking sucks. Because this thing, if you're going to do the, you know, we don't know what's real, right? This movie is not Eternal Sunshine, right? They're not doing their best job of leaping us through a dreamscape.
Right.
So then it just becomes this really fucking cluttered hodgepodge of what the fuck is happening. And I think you could argue by the end of the film, the entire construction of this piece is poppycock of the highest order, right? Like, whoever is the narrator for this story, because this thing, by the end of the movie, what we realize that opening car scene, right, that we saw of him, tickle fighting, right? And you're like, God damn, Mayhem, watch the road. This is why your rates are so fucking high, right? They're tickle fighting and launch into the river. Even that one scene that we thought was our base reality is not true. So everything we've seen is a fucking lie and a mirage, right? So there's literally nothing. And by the end, you're like, wait a sec. So he's already the fucking soul. I guess he's in this weird personalized hell thing again, which Inferno kind of dabbled with.
Right.
But we're just getting to this point. You're like, there's no fucking, we're not seeking the exploration of the fleesh, right? Like, what are we doing here? Like, what is the fucking point of all this?
Well, like, we're starting to shift. Like, this is the thing. This is starting to shift more into like, oh, they're like straight up from hell. And like, the Cenobites aren't just these like voyagers on the interdimensional highway trying to bang out. It's literally like, oh, they're like actually from hell.
Yeah.
And they know all about hell.
They run a Halloween Horror Nights kind of thing, right? They have to set
they're
up
running like they're running like the Halloween store in hell, and they like get called out every once in a while. Like, it's a very, I don't know, it's a very weird thing because again, like we've had, not saying they've been like just absolute bangers, but we've had like, there's been this observance to the actual premise.
Yeah,
this is
I think the first 5, you could make a pretty good case. They're all kind of on the same wavelength, right?
Right. This one, though, hey, do you, actually the whole time, actually from the, not the whole time, but like the very top of the movie, I was like, is this why Dean Winters is the car insurance guy? Because like someone saw him in Hellseeker, like,
Mayhem.
All right, we're going to have to do that shit.
I don't want to say that he's not a good actor, but he essentially is a sex dummy in this movie. He is bringing absolutely nothing to this film. He is a black hole of charm in this movie. He essentially exists for every woman we see in the movie to immediately just start throwing themselves upon him.
I'm trying to think when he ended up being on, because like, this is the crazy thing. Like, Dean Winters is a really good actor. Like, he's great in Oz. I thought he was fucking fantastic on 30 Rock. Like, that was the thing I remember him from the best.
He has nothing to do in this movie, it seems. Because he seems like he should care more that there's all these dead bodies and no one can find his wife. And instead, he just always goes, wait a sec, here's an emotion. I'll rub my head again. And it's like, dude, fucking bite into it. Like, what? Also, I think there's just this glaring issue with the movie that wouldn't it be better if he was the fucking mystery ghost and Ashley Lawrence was just walking us through the movie? We're just doing another Kirsty Cotton is like, oh, God, the box came back into my life.
That's like that's probably my biggest issue with the movie is like, we cut out the thing that actually matters, like that actually like links us to the lineage of these movies. Mm-hmm. And we just follow the Mayhem guy through the rest of the movie. And you're like, like we are very loose with the hidden agenda of this movie. But I also just, I don't find him entertaining. I think that's another thing too. Like, this is a really important thing about these Hellraiser movies. And having watched a bunch of them now, like the performances, just to get you there, at least the performances have to be entertaining. Like, look, you could think that the first Hellraiser is just absolute nonsense. Mm-hmm. But that first one is so entertaining because those performances are outlandish as hell. It's fun as hell to watch, man. And that's what makes the movies better. I mean, we talked about this with Hellraiser 2. Like, if that guy hadn't been yodeling while like with like a, weird, hell penis attached to his head. Yeah. That would have been just like kind of weird and lame, but like he's like yodeling again. This like over the topness is what's great. I'm just not getting that from Dean Winters.
What is he supposed to be offering us, the audience? I feel like this is one of those movies you kind of figure out the game really fast. None of this is true. Pinhead is here, so again, we're doing an Inferno where we're trapped in a Twilight Zone hell prison, right?
Right.
All right, I understand that. Every single woman that he meets is fucking straight up throwing it at him. They're like, dodge the cameras, as the girl's just like fucking, tickling his taint right by the fucking vending machine. And I was like, oh, she's so flippant. She doesn't give a fuck. You start to kind of piece this together, right? The cops think that he had something to do with it. He's just seriously fucking everyone who moves in this movie.
Yeah.
So you're like, all right, I get the gist that he was probably not a good...
the worst kept secret in the entire movie.
Kirsty found herself an Uncle Frank, and that sucks.
Yeah.
That sucks, right? That's just how it went down. So right away, you already know. And again, the like weird music video edits to try to, you know, keep us guessing as to where we are. And occasionally he'll see a fucking blank-faced, like the most boring version of a Cenobite. And you're like, I guess? Like it's hard to find anything to sink your teeth into. Because it kind of starts, and I had... There's a brief moment at the start where I felt in, right? They do that great title card.
Yeah.
Where it says there's no greater sorrow than to recall happiness in a time of sorrow, right?
Right.
So essentially, when you're at your worst, the thing that makes it the worst is because you remember how good it used to be, right?
Right.
And I was like, yeah, fuck yeah. Like, I get that. And then you don't appreciate a good time till it's gone. And okay. And I was like, all right, Kirsty's back. Fuck yeah. And by the end of the movie, that clearly is talking to Kirsty, too. Although I would argue by the end, she's having a fucking ball of a time. She's loving life at this point. Gets that fucking revenge. But I was like, this feels like a good beat, right? There's some fucking meat. You know, even as they're doing this like fucking Top Gun music while they're driving and shit, I'm like still thinking of the card. I'm like, all right, crash in the river, mystery, all right. After that 5 minutes, though, it is this just kind of so hollow. I mean, it is a cavernous film at its very core.
It's a weird thing when you watch a movie like this, like to do that bit, like the gimmick of like, oh, like the wraparound's going to be, it's you that's like, you know, it's the I see dead people bit. Like the problem is like, there's like the Sixth Sense version of doing it where like you don't realize you're watching a ticking clock, but this one feels like literally someone's like, hey, come on, let's go.
It was one of these movies where I paused it and I was like, oh, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
I was like, I get it. He's in hell. Like, what's... Because this thing, Inferno plays it pretty straight, right? Like, there's a mystery to be solved. Some kid's losing fingers, right? We've got a clock.
Right. Well, Inferno has this... Yeah. Well, Inferno... This is the advantage Inferno has, that it has this... It has the detective thing built in. Like, you have this, like... You have this procedural angle. Mm-hmm. So... the mystery that's unraveling at least is entertaining in that regard. This is literally like a guy just like what seems like either like cross between like the worst nightmare he ever had and then also like all the pussy he could ever imagine.
Yeah, there is a part of you that's like, really, Pinhead? This is the best hell you could come up with? Is this guy just walks around getting fucking blown everywhere he turns?
This is the other thing, too. And I don't know.
Like in hell, couldn't he have a not super hot acupuncturist? Like,
right.
we bring it down a notch?
Like, this.
What about someone who's like drooling on you when they put the needle in? Like, make it a little sadder.
Right.
That guy would still fuck, but like, make it weirder. Come on.
The methodology changing up, though, like, this is the part that kind of throws me about Pinhead and the gang this time around is the methodology changing of like, oh, we're going to like trap him in his own. I mean, and I know that's technically kind of Kirsty in a way.
Yeah.
But again, it's just weird. Like, I'm so confused going into Hellseeker because the rules are just like literally thrown out, and I have no idea.
Inferno blew up the mold a lot, and then this feels like one where they're like, we've got half a script somewhere. You know what I mean? It was that Beatles thing by the end when they did Day in a Life, and it's like, I got 30 seconds of song, I got 2 minutes of song, boom, song.
Well, I don't know. Like, this is the thing that I don't understand about, because I was really I was reading about this because like I had to figure out. I'm like, why does this movie feel so odd? Like, what about this is so like, you know?
It's the first time in the franchise I really felt no spark.
Yeah,
for like 90% of the movie.
So like I was reading about this, and this actually originally a writer named Michael Lent came in and pitched a movie called the Hellseeker. Mm-hmm. And basically they went into production after he finished the script, and Rick Boda came in to direct and literally rewrote the entire thing to include Kirsty. So all the assertions that we had when we were, because I didn't read this until after watching it, until after watching it. So all these assertions were like, because I thought I'm with you. I thought still felt like a Hellraiser movie, but like a spec that just like got Hellraiser crammed in. And I'm like, oh wait, this is a Hellraiser spec that got Kirsty crammed into it. Like,
yeah,
it's such a weird thing. And like,
why put her in?
Yeah,
and not
why is
have
she even
her
in
be
it?
the one we follow?
Yeah,
like even when you did Dream
she's
Warriors,
literally
right?
the point of this.
Yeah, when Nancy comes back in Dream Warriors, she's still an integral part of the story.
Yeah.
And again, every good moment in this film mostly resides with Kirsty, right? Like there are some cool scenes, right? So like when he's in his apartment and the boss lady comes in and is like, pa-pow, pa-pow, right? And she's just teleporting around with less clothes on. She's like, get over here and fucking, it's time to get your fucking daddy on. No safe word. Let's go. And he kind of is like, whoa, hold on. I'm a happily married man. Which, again, is like such a weird thing to write into his personal hell, is that he actually thinks he was a good husband. A small detail I did like. But then, she's like, oh, get the camera out. It's go time, right? Because we saw it earlier when he's like filming Kirsty's birthday present. And you're like, I know what to use that camera for. But when he's watching her and him have sex, right? And he can't stop the camera. And then all of a sudden, Cenobites are fucking grabbing and attacking and whatever. I was like, that's a pretty good fucking horror beat that then immediately is washed asunder because we're like, there's no fucking flesh on the table. Yeah. This is one of the keys. So in Hellraiser 1, right, the very basic premise is a person is like, God, these orgasms just aren't enough. They go seek more. There's actual fucking flesh on the line. And you see the ripple effect in real world of how this hits people. The more you take this to a hell dimension, and that the fucking game's already over. And again, it's a trick they got away with once, I think. By this point, you're like, I don't want to do this again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you already did the, like, it's all a fucking hell prison kind of thing. So they were close on some of it, right? There were definitely moments that were getting close, right? Like, I like the sentiment when he goes and finds the box, and he's talking to the, the guardian of the box or whatever. And he says, you have a wife who traps you with forgiveness.
Right.
And you're looking for a way out. I'm like, all right, fuck yeah, this is interesting. I don't know why they tried to hide from us that he was a bad guy.
Yeah. I don't understand, like, especially after Inferno, I don't understand why it's a thing.
If he's a fucking murderer trying to hide it,
yeah,
that's a way fucking better movie if he's getting all fucking, and he's talking to his little friend at work that always covers for him. He's like, fuck, dude, they're going to catch us. That's a better movie.
Yes.
That's a way better movie. So, I mean, I feel like they were this fucking close all over the point, and then I just don't know what happened.
I don't know. Like, again, it's one of those things where reading about it afterwards, like, the weeds that they were in, when it came up, you're like, oh, wow, this is one of those, like, movies that's like a Camel. Like, it's just like a movie made by committee, where it's like, Clive Barker has some notes. Mm-hmm. I think at one point Doug Bradley even wrote the ending, but like that got cut out. But they went through like 3 different directors, all of them, and like only when Rick Boda came in was it decided that Ashley Lawrence was going to come back. So like, it is one of those things where you watch it and you're like, because that's the difference between this one and Deader. Like, Deader at least feels like somebody made that movie the whole way through and then stuck.
They definitely had a vibe they were trying to explore, for sure.
Like someone, like this one feels like they're like, oh, we got to get a Hellraiser movie out. Like, that was like, and I think that's the part that sucks about these particular franchises when they get long. Like, because I don't think Hellraiser is one of those franchises that necessarily gets long in the tooth. I think the problem is you just like foist so much crap onto something that's already interesting, trying to think about a way to make it more interesting. I'm like,
the
why don't you
jumping
just
realities doesn't work. They don't give our leading man any time to act or emote, right?
Yeah.
So this whole movie, everyone I read online that likes this movie is not the worst Hellraiser movie. They're all like, Kirsty's back and that ending is fucking amazing. I agree, that ending is amazing. Sure. But again, right off the bat, it just shows this base misunderstanding of what Hellraiser is, right? Again, we talked about this by Fucking number 2. Pinhead's already like, oh, you bitch. Enough.
Yeah.
This is not Facebook Marketplace, Kirsty. You can't fucking partner. Right? She comes back, and he's just like, you know what? We used your fucking philandering ass to get Kirsty, because they wanted to get Kirsty back. And I'm like, fuck. The fact that Pinhead has kept Kirsty in the back of his mind, right? The fact that we saw in part 3 that some part of him considers Kirsty a friend. So whatever he wants her back for, we don't fucking know, man. So that's a really interesting setup, right? That she found an Uncle Frank, and that he's going to fucking use that against her, right? Was that scene when we find out that he gave her the puzzle box for her birthday is fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
Right? Her just saying, why would you do this to me? And he's like, shut the fuck up and open the box. And she looks at him. And Kirsty, after everything we saw her go through, right?
Right.
Just says, I hope it's everything you wish for. And she willingly opens that fucking box, knowing that she is the one now who is considered the Hellseeker. She's the one the Cenobites are coming for. Fucking awesome moment. Awesome idea for the story. We literally just cut back. He's like, I wanted a more interesting creature, Kirsty. You're like, yeah, fuck yeah. And she's like, how about a Costco 5 for 1? Excellent deal. It's like, why? Yeah. Like, for 20 years, you've been fucking thinking about getting Kirsty back, and you're just like, oh, I'll take these other fucking scrubs.
It is weird how the movie, like this whole, like that whole section is almost like it's like a farmer's market. You're like, all right, fine. You can have 5 lettuce heads for 1. Just like, whoa.
I'll give you 3 other versions of me, and hey, don't take my word for it. My husband also wanted to fuck them more. And I'll give you these 2 guys on top who are pretty bad guys. You're going to have a great time, right?
Yeah, it's such a weird...
The fact that Kirsty and Pinhead come face to face again after everything we saw in those first 2 movies, and then even in the third, that talks about Kirsty again, and she literally just says 5 for 1, and that's it. They don't, like, hash it out.
I'm telling you.
It's such a fucking missed opportunity.
This is the era of... Pinhead is sitting in the lament configuration and with his fucking, very cool chains and slippies, just sitting up, trying to watch, whatever home renovation show he's watching. And as soon as he's getting back in, you can just tell, like, God damn it. All right, fine. Everyone get your weird faces on. We'll go up there and talk to them.
Come on, leftover Cenobites. My old crew's gone. We're just down here.
My whole crew's out here. You with the weird face.
Yeah. It's, but this is what I mean. I think what you see,
poor guy.
And again, why I think this is useful to watch these all in tandem, right? You see these really interesting threads, right? Kirsty willingly choosing to call hell down is a punishment for her shitty husband that she fucking got tricked by.
Right.
That's just fucking good storytelling.
Yeah,
that's just
great.
a fucking great choice. So
that
even
really
in the middle of this absolutely just hard to be in a room with turd, right?
Right.
Like, it's a big fucking smelly pile of shit as a movie. There's still some really fucking good beats, and I think that's what is so hard to swallow about Hellraiser at times. It's such a fucking... It's not so limited by what it is, right? I feel like Halloween and Friday the 13th are pretty limited to... You pretty much have to be a fucking horny teenager, right? All right.
Right.
Nightmare on Elm Street. You're also a teenager whose parents were bad people, right? Whatever. All right. They're all kind of focused in on... Hellraiser can be in the fucking crevasses of all of us, right? Like when the surgeon's going in on him, he's like, it's such a small membrane that separates, pleasure and pain and all that kind of shit. I think that's how I always think of it, right? There's so little difference between us and the guy who's like, you know what? I hate my 9 to 5, goes home and fucking chops his family up with like something he bought on QVC and fucking rubs their puree all over his nips. And he's like,
absolutely.
I just had a bad day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's so little that fucking separates all of us from, like, that just shockingly horrifying monster. The guy who lived next door, right? The guy who is the deacon at your church, and he ends up being, fucking BTK or whatever.
Right, right.
And that's why Hellraiser has all of these wonderful opportunities. And you even see it in this one. This is what kind of starts the, like, oh, now Pinhead just says the same, like, 4 catchphrases every movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I have such sights to show you, like, still. And I get it, because he has to, like, do it to a new audience every time. He's like, oh, you're back. We can skip the fucking intro course. Skip those first 3 PowerPoint slides. Like, now. Nips. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we're doing the face pull thing again. Every movie has the face pull, right? And it's like, they're just not pushing the envelope hard enough to go to these other areas. But they found their that's what I'm telling you. They found their fucking movie. Kirsty is now the Julia.
Yeah.
Right? She's married a Frank, and now she's a Julia.